Okay. So, your brand identity. When we see the word brand identity, most of us think logo or color. I mean, that is definitely a part of it, but there's so much more to your brand identity. So, every business has an identity, whether carefully crafted or accidentally created. Mine was accidentally created. The art too. We'll talk about that later, how I even came up with this new name. But it's me. And so authentically, you want to make sure that when you're doing your brand identity, what does your logo mean to you first and foremost? And how will you be able to correlate a brand story to that? So your logo color, the palette is, the list of colors that you may have reds, like I have red, white, and a little bit of gray. So there's a specific code for each of those colors so that when you're creating content and you're working with a graphic designer, they may say, well, what shade is your red? What shade is your blue? So there is a specific list of codes that show how to keep that brand color consistent so that it's recognized. So, moving forward, like, how do you want people to feel when they think of us? What unique values and personalities do we bring to the market? And what promises are we making to our audience? All right, so we'll take a minute and think about some of the brands that you don't even have to see the name of it to know what it is. I remember a few years ago, Doritos had a campaign where they were just kind of showing the triangle, and you know that it was Doritos because Doritos has been around for years and years. And so that's just like a prime example of being able to see a brand that's been so consistent in lifestyles and in communities and families that they knew they didn't even have to put any work into adding extra graphics because you knew. So, how can we create that type of brand? Will we do it by our actions? Do we do it by our look? Or is it how we sound? Law and Order. When you hear that dong dong, that's Law and Order. So that's brand recognition by sound. The Law and Order logo because that's brand recognition by identity. And so there's just so many different ways and so many different aspects to our brands that make us different. But most importantly than anything, the most important is our target audience. Who are we talking to? So, commercials have been popular since the beginning of time. And Super Bowl time is one of the most profitable times of the year for advertising because millions of dollars are spent on commercials. But does everyone watch the Super Bowl? So, say for instance, if there's a daycare center or some business that has maybe their proprietors, they know that their audience may not necessarily be watching the Super Bowl. It may be primarily moms or whatever that particular target audience is. So they would not benefit from placing an ad at Super Bowl because there's no way to measure how many moms actually saw that. Although moms may be in the room, but primarily you would probably spend those dollars to find dads. Not to say moms aren't Super Bowl fans, because there are several, but we just know if you want to think strategically, you want to allocate those dollars in the right way. And so knowing who you're talking to is a huge factor, especially in terms of ROI, because when you know who you're talking to, you're able to make strong marketing budget decisions. And so, what are their values? What are their struggles? And what are their dreams? So, when you know those things, you know where to find them.